It's gone wrong immediately, because this was not the train I was expecting to catch.
The next station is Drayton Green.
Well, this is spooky. There we go, that's much better. So I was going to start this video by featuring a new type of train, which isn't quite a new type of train because it's an old tube train. The D-stock is what it was known as, and they were manufactured in 1978 and introduced to the District Line in 1980, and they lasted all the way up until 2017, and I was actually on that last journey to Ealing Broadway, so it would have been very fitting to have gotten back on one of them just one stop up the line from West Ealing, because after their withdrawal, a company called Viva Rail acquired them, and they refurbished them to roll them out onto parts of the National Rail network. The first line to get them was the Marston Vale line, which runs between Bedford and Bletchley. They have also been rolled out to the Isle of Wight and a railway in Wales called the Bordisland line. But what made this one very different, that runs on the Greenford shuttle, is that it is the first to be battery operated. Not just that, but the UK's first battery operated train as well. Now, Viva Rail have since gone into administration, and the services on the Marston Vale line have been withdrawn. The rest of the stock that never managed to get refurbished are currently lying abandoned somewhere in the Cotswolds. I do actually know where. So I'm not too sure exactly what's going to happen to them, because the reason why they decided to take these old tube trains is because it's cheaper to refurbish a train which you already have, because you have the bodywork of it already, rather than build a new one from scratch. For the last couple of years, they have been testing this train out on the Greenford shuttle, and only very recently has it actually been introduced to passenger services, but only on a Saturday. Now, I couldn't make the other Saturdays for various reasons. Either the trains weren't running for me to get out here, or the weather was bad for me to do this walk. But it's a perfect sunny Saturday and it's not running. And I'm not sure why that is, but that's making me question already the reliability of these trains. It's very much a trial run, this battery operated train. It uses special charging points at West Ealing that only take a few minutes to charge it up. And if it's a success, then they may roll it out to other branch lines on the Thames Valley, such as the one to Windsor, Marlow, Henley, for example. But it might not be this D-stock train, or the Class 230 as it's now known. And I've specifically waited for at least 2 years. They've been testing it a very long time to come and do this, and I've not managed to do it. So I could have just done this 2 years ago and it wouldn't have made any difference. I don't mind too much either way, because something very special has just occurred, and that is I have visited my last station in London. Yes, Castlebar Park was the last station I had not visited in London, and I could have done it 2 years ago. I find it quite funny that this is my last one, because it's actually the busiest station on the line. A reason why they've decided to trial the battery train here is because it's considered to be London's quietest railway line, with Drayton Green being, I think, the current least used station in London, and South Greenford up the line is another one that's quite least used, but they are closer to West Ealing and Greenford on the Central line, whereas this one, Castlebar Park, is right in the middle, so it's further away from any other sort of railway, so it kind of makes sense that this is the busiest. I've only really travelled on the Greenford shuttle once before, and I was kind of bouncing back and forth, and this was near the end of 2017, so I went to South Greenford, back to Drayton Green and then to Greenford, but I didn't do Castlebar Park until now. If I'd done it 2 years ago, Elmstead Woods would have been the last station in London, by the way. And I thought that this station still had old First Great Western signs, but it seems they've recently been replaced, all apart from one Bars and Arrows sign, which still have that First Great Western colours on. So I guess what we'll do is we'll just count our losses, maybe travel on it another day, but for now I'm going to get on with my walk, which will be back to the other stations on the Greenford shuttle through Drayton Green to West Ealing. I can smell the diesel fumes. That's an interesting typo to have so close to the station. No space between castle and bar. And I start the walk not by passing through Castlebar Park, but Cuckoo Park, which I've just learnt is the site of an old central London district school that Charlie Chaplin used to go to. And just like that, in no time at all, I've made it to Drayton Green, London's least used station. And there's no one here. I think last year it got about 23,000 people use it. I think with a half-hourly service, especially with no services on Sunday, it's better to just walk over to West Ealing and catch the Elizabeth line, because it's very close. And that's what I'm going to do now. West Ealing didn't actually have a Sunday service until May 2019. I was hoping by some sheer miracle that they started running the Class 230/D stock train, but that is not the case. Otherwise, I could have caught it to West Ealing and back quickly. And what better way to reach West Ealing than to cross Drayton Green itself. And I've made it to West Ealing station by its new Elizabeth line entrance, which I've not actually seen because I've only ever come here for the Greenford shuttle, and that was many years ago. But I'm back where I started, and I did notice when I was here earlier that there's a disused milk train platform. And intriguingly, although there's only 2 platforms for the Elizabeth line and 1 for the shuttle, it's numbered platform 5 for the Greenford train, because there used to be 2 on the main line, which no longer exists. I remember the much smaller entrance up on the bridge where, oh no, there was a beautiful National Rail logo made out of brick, but they've replaced it with a window. There was also a broken permit to travel machine in there. I think it can still be used as an emergency exit. I've walked on over to Walpole Park because it's quieter here to do a piece of camera than from outside of West Ealing station, because I do want to talk a little bit about it because it's had quite a complicated little history. It opened in 1871 as Castle Hill. It was renamed to Castle Hill Ealing Dean in 1875. It was, ironically, served by the District Railway for 2 years from 1883 when they ran services to Windsor, and then it was renamed to West Ealing in 1899. But then, just to add one extra step to the puzzle, the Greenford shuttle opened 5 years later in 1904, and they did used to run all the way through to London Paddington, but to make way for the Elizabeth line services, a new bay platform was introduced and they terminate there, which could contribute to the lower passenger numbers today. The only other time I travelled on the Greenford shuttle service was for a slightly different journey on a Chiltern parliamentary service. Now, these services run because it's cheaper to run a very limited service rather than go through Parliament to close the line. And there was one such service that ran out of London Paddington out towards West Ruislip. But to make space for HS2 construction at Old Oak Common, them trains were diverted down the Greenford line to West Ealing. And that was about a year after I first rode the Greenford shuttle at the end of 2018. But funnily enough, that service no longer runs. It's been replaced by a bus service instead. So there's like a ghost bus now from West Ealing, which leaves on Wednesdays at about 11:30. I'd like to maybe ride that one day. But if history repeats itself, will it actually run? See, I'm kind of glad that I do this whole YouTube thing as more of a hobby, so I can kind of release the videos whenever I want, and I'm not trying to get my video out the first day of a new train service just to hit the algorithm. So, you know, I've done it a lot later, and this, I thought, would have allowed me to kind of have more of the train to myself, because I would have thought many enthusiasts would have already come out to ride the new train. But there was still quite a few people at West Ealing this morning who were definitely disappointed. I'm glad that I at least have something else to do, so although I am now leaving the Greenford shuttle behind, stick with me, because I am going to take a walk now through Ealing and Acton, and there should be some interesting things along the way. If you'd like to see South Greenford and Greenford, by the way, they are featured in a walk I did last year, where I did actually see the Class 230 D-Stock train under test. But I've still not yet rode it.
Walpole Park is lovely and very busy, very popular on a sunny Saturday. You also have Pithanger Manor and Art Gallery here as well, if you're interested. I feel I may have overlooked Ealing Broadway in the past. It's actually quite nice. I don't think I've been back here since riding night routes in 2020. I remember spotting a fox on Haven Green here at about 3 AM. But I've made it to Ealing Broadway station, or the former station for the District Railway. The station entrance closed in 1965 when they amalgamated it into a conjoined entrance, which was a very dark, dingy subway entrance, which was really, really grim. But thankfully they've replaced it now with a much nicer building when the Elizabeth line opened. I've not actually stood outside of it before. I cannot express to you how much better it is, because it was definitely my least favourite entrance to any tube station on the network. I've only seen it when changing trains up here on the concourse. Walking along the Uxbridge Road brings me out onto Ealing Common, which should give you a clue as to what the next station I'm going to pass will be. It's almost like I'm walking the District line now. What a brilliant old mile marker here beside Ealing Common. 9 miles to Uxbridge along the road, wow. You know, maybe it's just because it's been so many years since I've seen it, but I've never realised that Ealing Common looks remarkably similar to Hounslow West Station. But I guess that makes sense when I tell you that they were both built around the same time by Charles Holden when the Piccadilly line was extended in 1932. I like their septagonal ticket halls, it's quite unique. I guess considering this is a transport themed video, I should point out that there was once a plan to build a West London tramway along the Uxbridge Road. Swings and roundabouts, I guess the closest we got to that today is the Superloop Express bus. I just found out a brilliant fact, thanks Ealing for detailing history on some of your welcome boards to places. There used to be a toy factory on the site of Twyford Crescent Gardens here. I love this. In 1921, a bear made in a factory was sold to Daphne Mill in Harrods for a baby Christopher Robin, whose father wrote a series of books based around the bear Winnie the Pooh. I had no idea that his origins can be traced back to here. So I'm going to begin kind of weaving in and around Acton now, including Southfields Gardens, where I'm now sat. The last time I came to Acton, I think would have been around September 2023 for the annual Brentford Festival, which I had never been to before. They had ran a free old Routemaster bus around the local area. There was music playing in Blondin Park. It was all good. But what I figured I'd do afterwards was take a kind of impromptu walk out towards Acton, and I try to make sure not to visit any places which would clash with today's walk, because I knew that I would come back and do this even way back then. It's taken a while. You can blame the new train for that, which I've not rode. I really love discovering random things like this as you're passing along. The first Waitrose shop opened here in Acton in 1904. Nowadays this area is just dominated by huge Morrisons over there. Tucked behind the bustling high street lies the Woodlands, which was the site of an old Victorian house that was demolished just 1 year before Waitrose opened in 1903. I'm going to assume that this is perhaps an old ice house. What does the plaque say? Ah yes, the Woodlands Ice House. Oh, I can hear my voice echoing. One of the places I visited last time I was in Acton was Mill Hill Park, which I don't mind returning to because I remember there being some disused apartment buildings and I want to see what's become of them. Well, it looks like one here has been demolished. Some of them still exist, but a lot of them have been redeveloped in recent years. Mill Hill Park, by the way, which is completely unrelated to the other Mill Hill in North London, was the original name for Acton Town Station. But then they decided there's not enough Actons and renamed it. Speaking of Acton stations, it's inevitable that I'm going to reach one of the same name by passing over South Acton Recreation Ground, where I'm still learning some brilliant facts. This area was once known as Soapstud Island, as a large number of laundries were set up to take advantage of the many soft water springs in the area. So yes, there is a South Acton station, and I think this is the only place in London where there's a stop for every compass point. Bonus points for having an Acton Central as well, which we will visit later. And carrying on the theme of old district line services, there was once a shuttle service between South Acton and Acton Town, Mill Hill Park, which lasted until 1959. And until fairly recently, the bridge abutment was still in place for that railway, but they've just taken it away for a new development. It did occur to me, now that I've visited every station in London, what the next new station will be. And my guess was Old Oak Common, perhaps, but then I remembered, and it's only because it came up recently that it's kind of taken the next step forward to being a thing. They want to build a new West London Overground line, which will actually pass through South Acton. And there's the potential for a new station at Lionel Road, which is near to Kew Bridge, and one at Neasden. So it could be either of them. Also, I think I said earlier that I was in Southfields Gardens. I meant to say Springfields Gardens. I am now in Southfields Recreation Ground. I got them muddled up. My mistake. So although I might not be in Southfields near to Wimbledon, like the park might suggest, how about I fix that by heading to a place that's much more relevant to the area that I'm in, and that is Acton Park, which I've not been to before. It's rather glorious. So here's Acton Central Station that I promised earlier. You'll have to excuse the noise. There's a Station House pub right next door. Brilliantly though, by the entrance, there is a mosaic roundel, which has only been installed recently. It's kind of obvious when you see it has the Mildmay line on there. I like that it's actually surrounded by the Mildmay colour as well. This is the only one which I have not seen. So this brilliantly completes a collection of photographs. There's always little references to the area written on them. What have we got? 378. That's the class number for the trains. Superloop, mentioned that earlier. Our Southfields is on there as well. I love these. I hope they get rolled out to more stations in the future. It just gives the station that added little bit of charm. This is quite the trendy street outside of Acton Central Station, and its road sign brilliantly mentions the old borough of Acton, which mostly got amalgamated into the borough of Ealing in 1965. You'll find several of these around Acton. In fact, I saw one on a drain cover earlier, as well as spotting the old town hall in the high street. There's even a monument in Acton Park that mentions the Urban District Council of Acton as well. This is also where trains swap their traction from overhead electric wires, so you will sometimes feel the train go silent here or hear the pantograph slam down, which always gives people a bit of a fright. Well, I had no idea there was a village sign for East Acton. I just crossed the road and I spotted it and was like, I better go back over. It's right at the end of Friars Place Lane, if you ever want to come and see it. A lot of today's walk has just been urban park hopping, and that's pretty much what the final section will be as well, just for the sake of ticking off these green spaces, such as Trinity Way open space. Wormholt Park is another one which I'm passing over, and I might no longer be in the borough of Ealing. I'm instead in Hammersmith and Fulham, but I am still getting some good information. As it says here, there was once an open air Lido in this park. And just before I make it to my last new park of the day, I'm passing by the Loftus Road Stadium, which belongs to Queen's Park Rangers. Now, a few months ago I passed by Leyton Orient's football club, and I made the suggestion that that is possibly the last football stadium in London which I've not visited on foot. I stand corrected. I forgot about QPR, and now I'm wondering if there's any others which I've missed. Dagenham and Redbridge? I don't think I've been to theirs. Should do that at some point. This is curious. Outside the Queen's Tavern here, which is quite timely named considering we're just up the road from Queen's Park Rangers, there's an old coach. That's pretty cool. And my last park of today is Hammersmith Park, which I've been quite intrigued to visit for a while because it is right behind all of the new development at BBC White City. And one of the events held at White City back in 1910 was the Japan-British exhibition, which is why it's quite fitting that there is a Japanese garden in here. Now, I did actually explore the new development around BBC White City at the beginning of a walk last year, so I will leave a link to that video as well as the Greenford walk in the description below. So I will be ending this walk where I began the other one at Shepherd's Bush, but I won't be using Shepherd's Bush Market Station, which I find intriguing how there is no sign for the Circle Line, and I guess that's because it predates the Circle Line extension to Hammersmith by 1 year, as the station was renamed in 2008 with the market suffix to avoid confusion with the Central Line station. Shepherd's Bush has actually had quite the complicated history of station names. There was an original Shepherd's Bush south of the Market one nowadays. There was one on the line connecting the Hammersmith and City with the overground at Kensington Olympia. The actual overground station, there was a previous station on that site called Uxbridge Road, and of course there's the Central Line stop, which on some signs across the network for some reason say Shepherd's Bush Green, which is not a station, but it is where I am now standing to sum up today's video. And that was a very nice walk across Ealing and Acton. Oh, actually, where does that name come from? It's curious, right? Shepherd's Bush. Well, shepherds would rest here on their way to Smithfield Market in the city, and it was an ancient tradition of trimming a hawthorn bush so that their sheep can have shelter from the sun. Great name, right? Shepherd's Bush. The old tube train was definitely the best part of today. I waited 9 years for that tube train to return to London, and I didn't even get on it. 9 years for a 5-minute journey. That didn't even happen. Welcome to the UK rail network. I even manifested today by wearing the socks of the seat fabric design that the D-Stock train used to have over 20 years ago. So much for that. But I did just check, and my overground train home from Shepherd's Bush is on time, so that's good. So thank you for watching. We're coming up to the end of the Urban London walks this season. We're going to be starting to leave the capital quite regularly very soon. I'm very much looking forward to that, so subscribe if you'd like to see it. Right,
I better go to the station.
I actually changed trains here this morning to get out to Ealing and Castlebar Park, so it's a bit strange to have walked all the way back here.
Finchley Road and Sophomore, Hampstead Heath, Gospel Oak, Kentish Town West, Camden Road, Caledonian Road and Barnsbury, Highbury and Islington, Canonbury, Dalston Kingsland, Acton Central, Homerton, Hackney Wick and Stratford.
You know what, I guess that's better than just having another Red Lion pub. Let's throw on "and pineapple" at the end of its name.